Have you ever heard a story that makes you doubt whether it's true or just a fable? Today we present to you the 7 most terrifying legends in the world. Get ready to find out if they are truth or fiction. From the mysterious Slender Man to the terrifying Chupacabra, we explore these chilling stories that have terrified generations. Legend 7, the Slender Man. The Slender Man is a strange supernatural creature that kidnaps and kills people. He is described as a very tall man, dressed in a black suit, with long arms and legs. This enigmatic figure has been the subject of numerous accounts of disturbing encounters, which continue to fill those who hear them with fear. But who or what is this terrifying entity really? Its origins date back to urban legends that arose in internet forums. But over time, the testimonies of people who claim to have seen him have given this figure a prominent place in modern folklore. Over the years, the description of the Thin Man has varied slightly, but it always maintains certain disturbing elements. A featureless face, an overwhelming presence, and the ability to disappear without a trace. Can you imagine encountering him in the middle of the night? The mere sight of the Thin Man can have devastating effects on those who come across him. His ethereal appearance and the oppressive atmosphere surrounding him can cause memory loss, insomnia, and paranoia in victims. These symptoms often manifest soon after the encounter and can last for weeks, months, or even years, leaving people in a constant state of fear and anxiety. This is where the story becomes even more disturbing. Accounts of encounters with the Thin Man are as varied as they are terrifying. Some people claim to have seen him standing motionless outside their homes, while others recount sensing his presence while walking alone in the woods. In every case, the pattern is the same: an initial feeling of being watched, followed by the sudden appearance of the tall, shadowy figure. Numerous photographs and videos have attempted to capture his image, but most evidence is deemed dubious or manipulated. Despite this, fear and fascination with the Slender Man continues to grow, especially among the online communities where these stories are shared. His appearance is said to be linked to the disappearance of children, adding an extra layer of horror to his legend. What would you do if you saw a faceless figure watching you in the dark? In some accounts, children who encounter the Slender Man are drawn to him by an unexplained force, disappearing without a trace. The desperate search by parents and communities to find these children only serves to deepen the mystery and paranoia surrounding the Slender Man. In the end, only one question remains. Would you dare to investigate further about the Slender Man, knowing that you could come face to face with him? In short, the Thin Man is one of the most chilling figures in modern folklore. His presence remains an enigma, and the uncertainty about his existence only adds to the fear he provokes. The question that remains is the Thin Man a creation of the human mind, a figment of our worst nightmares? Or is there something more sinister and real behind this spectral figure? Legend 6, the Banshee. The Banshee is a female spirit in Irish mythology who heralds death with terrifying wails. This spectral figure has been part of Irish stories for centuries and continues to be a symbol of omen and mystery. But what makes the Banshee so terrifying? The legend of the Banshee dates back to ancient times, and its presence is seen as a warning of impending death. The banshee is said to appear before the death of a family member, emitting screams and wails so heart-wrenching that they chill the blood. This spirit can be a warning or a messenger of the inevitable, and its appearance is always linked to grief and loss. Imagine hearing its wailing in the middle of the night. The appearance of the banshee is equally haunting. It is described as a woman in white clothing with long white hair, sometimes messy. Her face can be that of a beautiful young woman or a gruesome old woman, and in some accounts, she is drenched in blood. The duality of her appearance reflects the fear and sadness she brings with her. Could you meet her gaze without feeling a chill? Accounts of encounters with the banshee are numerous and vary in detail. Some people have heard her screams in fields and woods, while others have seen her standing motionless near their homes. Testimonies agree on the chilling nature of her wails, which can be heard for miles, and the certainty that hearing the banshee means death is near. An encounter with the banshee is something you will never forget. It is believed that if someone sees a banshee, a horrible death awaits them. Her presence is an inescapable sign of what is to come, and the despair she causes can be almost as devastating as death itself. In some versions of the legend, the banshee is seen washing the clothes of those who are destined to die in a river that runs red with blood. The next time you hear a scream in the night, will you dare to check if it is a banshee? In short, the banshee is a symbol of death and despair in Irish mythology. Her presence and wailing are signs of the inevitable, and her figure has kept a generation in suspense. The question that remains is, are these encounters real or just the fruits of human imagination and fear? Legend 5, Mary Shaw. Mary Shaw was a witch buried with her dolls. If you see her in a dream, you must not scream under any circumstances. This warning has endured through the years and has generated deep terror in those who know her story. But who was Mary Shaw really, and what triggered her curse? Mary Shaw lived in a small town and was known for her skill as a ventriloquist. Her obsession with her dolls was so great that she began to treat them as if they were her own children. The townspeople viewed her as a strange and sinister figure, until one day, a child disappeared, and Mary was suspected of being involved. In order to bring justice, the child's family, along with other residents of Ravenfur, broke into her home and forced her to scream before tearing out her tongue. She was buried alongside her dolls, selling her fate with an act of brutality. But Mary Shaw's story did not end with her death. Shortly after her burial, mysterious deaths began to occur in Ravenfair. Those involved in her death were found murdered, all with their tongues torn out, just as Mary had. It was said that Mary Shaw had returned for revenge, and her restless spirit would not rest until all those responsible had paid the price. Can you imagine the terror of facing a vengeful witch? Encounters with Mary Shaw have become legends in themselves. Some people claim to have seen her in their dreams, while others have felt her presence in their homes. There is always one common denominator: an eerie silence followed by a scream that is never heard. Evidence of her existence is sparse, but the accounts are consistent. Mary Shaw will not stop killing until people stop screaming her name. Would you dare say her name out loud, knowing what might come next? Those who have been unlucky enough to cross paths with her tell chilling stories of how they were haunted by a spectral figure who seemed to take pleasure in their suffering. The legend of Mary Shaw lives on, and her presence is felt every time someone mentions her name. Accounts of her murders are a terrifying reminder of what can happen when a witch's vengeance is not quenched by death. At the end of the day, the question remains, is Mary Shaw merely an urban legend? Or is there something darker and more real behind these accounts? In short, Mary Shaw is a terrifying figure whose story of revenge and death has left an indelible mark on the collective memory. The uncertainty about her existence only adds more fear to her legend, and the threat of her return is still enough to keep people awake at night. Legend 4, The Wild Rose. Once upon a time, there was a young girl named Elisa Day, whose beauty was comparable to that of blood-red roses. Elisa was known in her small town for her extraordinary beauty, which attracted the admiration of everyone around her. Her life seemed perfect until a young man, attracted by her charm, came to the town and fell madly in love with her. But this love story did not have a happy ending. The young man and Elisa met 3 times. The first day, he came to visit her. The second day, he brought her a red rose and asked her to meet him at the place where wild roses grow. On the third day, they went to the river where the tragedy occurred. Without warning, the young man, overcome by a dark obsession, brutally killed her. He stuffed a rose into her mouth before throwing her body into the river, sealing her fate in a cruel and merciless way. This ruthless act transformed a love story into a creepy legend. Since then, Elisa Day became the Wild Rose, a name that represents both her tragic beauty and her sad fate. Over the years, Elisa's legend has grown, with accounts of people claiming to have seen her ghost wandering the riverbank. Described as a young woman, soaked in crystal clear water, with a red rose in her mouth and her head stained with blood. Would you dare walk near the river knowing what you might find? The apparition of Elisa Day is seen by many as a symbol of warning and sadness. Those who have had the misfortune of encountering her specter say that her gaze is filled with indescribable sorrow, as if she is still seeking justice for the betrayal she suffered. Her wails can be heard on quiet nights, echoing through the water and wind, reminding everyone of her tragic end. The story of Elisa Day teaches us that love can turn into a nightmare. Today, the Wild Rose remains one of the most famous legends of its region. Townspeople avoid the river after dark, fearing to encounter the young girl's ghost. Some believe that Elisa will not rest in peace until her killer is brought to justice, while others think that her spirit is destined to wander forever, trapped between 2 worlds. In every red rose that blooms near the river, the story of Elisa Day is told. In short, the legend of the Wild Rose is a grim reminder of how beauty and love can be corrupted by obsession and violence. The tragic story of Elisa Day lives on in the collective memory, her name whispered with fear and respect. The question that remains is, are these real hauntings, or simply the product of a community affected by grief and loss? Legend 3, The Legend of the Cursed House. In Monterrey, Mexico, there is a legend about an abandoned building called the Corpse House. This imposing structure, built in the 1970s, stands out for its unique architecture, but its history is what really makes it feared and avoided by locals. What dark secrets does this seemingly ordinary building hide? The house was built by a wealthy couple who had a paralyzed daughter. In an attempt to give her a more comfortable life, they designed the house with ramps that would allow their daughter to move freely in her wheelchair. Unfortunately, one day while playing on one of the ramps, the little girl's wheelchair picked up speed and, unable to stop, she plunged into an open window, resulting in her tragic death. The dream of giving her daughter a better life turned into a nightmare. Since the girl's death, paranormal events began to occur in the house. The family, devastated by the loss, abandoned the house, leaving it empty and at the mercy of the legends that grew up around it. It is said that at night, the screams and crying of a little girl can be heard, as well as the sound of a wheelchair moving through the empty rooms. Would you dare to spend a night in this haunted house? Authorities fenced off the area around the house to prevent curious people from getting close. But this has not stopped some adventurers from trying to get inside. Those who have done so tell terrifying stories of encounters with the ghosts of a boy and a girl. According to accounts, the figure of a girl can be seen in the upper floor windows, waving to passers-by, while the figure of a boy is often seen playing in the front garden. Testimonies of these encounters only fuel the legend. One of the most chilling accounts comes from a couple who decided to inspect the house with their young son. As they toured the lower floors, they heard their son's screams. Looking up, they watched in horror as a ghostly figure threw him out of a window. Although the boy survived the terrifying encounter, the psychological after effects will stay with him for life. The area remains a place of unease and fear for local residents. The haunted house in Monterey has become a symbol of tragedy and mystery. Despite efforts to keep people away, curiosity and the desire to unravel its secrets continue to attract the bravest. The question that remains is, are the apparitions and paranormal events real, or simply the result of minds influenced by fear and legend? Legend 2, The Revenge of the Priest's Daughter. In Kansas, a girl took revenge on her lover and killed his family, leaving their bodies in a basement. This story of revenge and tragedy has left an indelible mark on the memory of the local community, becoming one of the most terrifying legends in the region. What led this young woman to commit such a horrendous act? The priest's daughter fell madly in love with the boy next door, but he broke her heart by choosing someone else. Filled with jealousy and rage, the young woman decided to take revenge in the most brutal way possible. One day she broke into her lover's house and, in a fit of rage, killed his family, leaving their bodies in the church basement. This act of extreme violence not only destroyed several lives, but also left an indelible scar on the community. The tragic event quickly became a legend. Since then, heart-wrenching cries have been heard in the church and its basement. The townspeople claim that at night, the screams of the girl and her victims echo through the walls of the church, creating an atmosphere of terror and despair. The church, once a place of peace and refuge, is now avoided by all, especially after dark. Would you dare to enter a place so laden with pain and suffering? Accounts of sightings and paranormal experiences in the church are numerous. People who have entered the basement rarely return without experiencing something terrifying. Some have seen shadows moving in the darkness, while others have felt a cold, oppressive presence following them at every step. Testimonies agree that the basement is a place where time seems to stand still, and the air is heavy with indescribable sadness and fear. Every step in the basement is a reminder of the tragedy that occurred there. One of the most chilling accounts comes from a group of teenagers who decided to explore the church one night. Descending into the basement, they were greeted by bitter cold and the sound of distant cries. As they moved forward, shadows seemed to come to life, and a spectral figure appeared before them, forcing them to flee in terror. Since then, none of them have ever come near the church again. The priest's daughter's revenge lives on in the echoes of the church. The legend of the priest's daughter's revenge is a grim reminder of how love and hate can carry out unimaginable acts of violence. The church and its basement stand as silent witnesses to this tragedy, and the question that remains is, are these paranormal encounters real, or simply the result of minds influenced by fear and guilt? Legend 1, the Chupacabra. The Chupacabra is a mystical creature that was first seen in Puerto Rico. This creature terrorizes locals, attacking livestock. The first stories of its appearance surfaced in the mid-1990s, causing panic and bewilderment among rural communities. But what exactly is this creature that has left so many in suspense? According to legend, the Chupacabra has strong, reptile-like legs and plumage on its back that allows it to fly. Its physical description varies slightly, but it is often depicted as having scaly skin, glowing red eyes, and sharp fangs. Some versions also include spines on its back and an overall appearance that mixes reptilian and mammalian features. Imagine coming across such a creature in the middle of the night. Chupacabra attacks often follow a similar pattern. Cattle are found dead, bleeding out, and with fang marks on their necks. Stories of these attacks have been documented, not only in Puerto Rico, but also in other parts of Latin America and the southern United States. The lack of blood in the animals' bodies has led many to compare it to a vampire, a predator that feeds on the lifeblood of its prey. Each new attack only increases the mystery and fear surrounding the Chupacabra. Accounts of sightings and encounters with the creature are as varied as they are terrifying. Some people claim to have seen the Chupacabra prowling around their farms, while others have found unusual footprints that do not correspond to any known animal. In all cases, the presence of the Chupacabra is accompanied by a feeling of dread and the certainty that something out of the ordinary is happening. Fear of the unknown is one of the greatest human fears. Despite numerous attempts to capture the Chupacabras on video, no conclusive evidence has been presented. This has led to speculation about the true nature of the creature. Some believe it is a failed biological experiment, while others think it could be an extraterrestrial creature. The lack of definitive proof has only fueled conspiracy theories and the aura of mystery surrounding the Chupacabras. Would you dare to investigate further, knowing the risks involved? In short, the Chupacabras is one of the most persistent and feared legends in modern folklore. Its characteristics and appearances have left an indelible mark on rural communities that have witnessed its attacks. The question that remains is the Chupacabras a real creature, a figment of the collective imagination, or a combination of both? Our tour of these chilling legends has revealed how fear and mystery continue to lurk in the darkness, fueling our worst nightmares. These tales lead us to question what we think we know and to look over our shoulders when we least expect it. Would you dare to investigate these legends further, or would you rather stay safe from the truth? The enigma that surrounds each of these tales lives on, perpetuated by testimonies, sightings, and the fear of the unknown. In every corner of the world, these stories have found their place, passed down from generation to generation, keeping the flame of terror and intrigue alive. Don't forget to share your thoughts and experiences in the comments. We want to know, do you think these stories are real or just a figment of the imagination? And if you've ever had an encounter with one of these legends, tell us. Your story could be the next one we explore. Remember to subscribe so you don't miss the next journey into the unknown.